This is real life.
Big man, hey, did I wake him?
We got it, baby.
Anything? This is my job. We got 5 minutes. You're my brother. Listen.
It's all yours.
Very happy. Hey, long, let's go.
It's just a day.
Today, we're going to tell you the storyline of the movie called Ambulance from the year 2022. Telling us about a robbery by two brothers who took a paramedic and a wounded officer hostage in an ambulance into an intense high-speed chase with the police. And as the story unfolds, the two brothers need to come up with a strategy to evade the law while also ensuring the safety of their hostages. So without further ado, grab your snacks and let's get watching. But before we start, please support our channel by subscribing and click the bell icon for future notifications. Now, let's start. The movie started with a scene of a guy named Will Sharp, a U.S. Marine veteran, when he was calling the insurance company in an attempt to obtain money for his wife's experimental cancer surgery. But his request was denied, saying that his wife's condition is not on the insurance coverage list. Will was disappointed and felt neglected after all he did for his country. He was left with no option, and to not worry his wife, he told his wife that his request was approved.
We got it, baby.
He then left his wife saying that he was about to go to a job interview, but he went to meet his adoptive brother named Danny Sharp instead, an infamous bank robber. They actually were taught how to rob by their father, but Will chose to go the other way to serve his country.
Look at these pictures.
There Danny reads Will's expression, and Will also admits he was desperate. Danny agreed on helping his brother, but with his way, and invited him along in a robbery he was about to pull off later that day. Will was left with no choice, and finally agreed to join Danny's robbery.
This is my job. We got 5 minutes. You're my brother. Listen.
On the other hand, there was a paramedic named Kim Thompson with her partner named Scott on their way to a car crash scene, where they were faced with a young girl named Lindsay, who had been impaled by a fence post. Lindsay's severe condition requires the firefighters' help to handle, while Cam was there to calm her throughout the rescue process.
Lindsay, whatever happens, I'm not gonna let go. Okay. Please, here you go.
Thankfully, the rescue process went well, and they immediately brought Lindsay to the hospital for further treatment.
You all right?
I'm starving.
At their lunch break, Scott got news about Lindsay, who will manage to survive.
I don't wanna know.
But then Cam's response was a bit jaw-dropping, saying that she doesn't care, would not form any attachments with her patients, and sees her job as just another task. Scott was confused with her, wondering how a heartless lady like her could work as a paramedic who is required to assist numerous people every day. Will joins Danny and his gang as they arrive at the targeted bank and manage to control the whole bank within minutes.
Do not get up.
It's all yours.
Very happy. Hey, long, let's go.
It's just a day.
Shortly after, a police officer named Zach approached the front door. Danny then disguised himself as the manager and told Zach that the bank was closed at that moment.
I'll let you in 20 minutes.
But Zach insisted on entering the bank to meet his crush, one of the tellers there, and when Zach was about to say hi to his crush, Danny immediately pointed his gun at Zach and told him to play it cool and wave his hand to his partner Mark, who was waiting outside the bank. Mark even helped one of Danny's crew outside, but when their cover was blown, they tried to run over him, but thankfully he managed to jump off the way in time. As Will and Danny walked out of the bank holding Zach hostage, a gunfight occurred between Danny's crew and the police. They even deployed the SWAT troops to fight Danny's crew. All of Danny's crew were eliminated in that gunfight, leaving Danny and Will, who tried to escape the scene through the basement parking lot, still with Zach as their hostage. Midway, Zach suddenly tried to break free and attempted to attack Danny. Will got panicked and accidentally shot Zach and severely injured him. Will regretted his decision immediately and tried to help Zach there, but then Danny told him to leave Zach there as the police officers started to enter the basement area. As they ran away, Mark finally found bleeding Zach and called for help. Cam, who had just arrived at the scene, heard Mark scream and immediately went for him. Ignoring the officers outside the bank, managed to bring Zach in and treated him. On the other hand, Danny and Will were still cornered with no escape plan until the ambulance passed by them. Danny immediately stopped it, hijacked the ambulance, pulled Scott out, held Cam there as their hostage, and managed to escape the scene.
Let's go. We got cops ahead. Officer down!
I got a cop shot.
All right, let's go. I need lights.
$16 million.
Mark, who was about to exit the basement, then finds Scott unconscious and realizes that the ambulance has been hijacked. This brings Captain Monroe from the SIS to the case. Outside, Monroe tried to calm Mark down and deployed the police helicopter to look for the hijacked ambulance. Seeing a fire extinguisher in the back corner of the ambulance, Cam immediately grabbed it and used it on Danny and Will when they were off guard, and she tried to run away. But she failed. Moreover, after Zach suddenly had a seizure and Will frantically called her back to treat Zach.
Wake up! Hey, the help!
Fuck you!
After quite some time, the police finally spotted the ambulance. Knowing that, Monroe then immediately deployed his troops, including Mark, to go after the ambulance and called the headquarters for more helicopters. Zach's condition was getting worse, and Danny helped Cam on treating Zach, while Will was still driving to avoid the police chase.
I need more hands in this.
Help the cop!
Get the defib pass.
What?
Move. In there, right there, moron.
Charge.
Here.
Whoa, shit!
And after Zach's condition got stable, Danny immediately contacts his father's friend, criminal boss named Poppy, and promises him $8 million to prepare 5 ambulances for him as decoys to trick the cops. As a fellow criminal, Poppy understands Danny's situation, agrees with no further questions, and arranges their meeting point under one of the city's bridges. Danny then also contacted Castro, one of his gang, to bring paint for him. Soon after, Monroe told the headquarters to connect his radio to the ambulances and contacted Danny, telling him to give up already. Danny was offended and shouted at Monroe, telling him that Monroe's little threats would never stop him.
Let's roll!
Hey, that's my car!
Blockade every exit.
When Mark finally got close to the ambulance, Danny suddenly pointed his gun at Cam's head and threatened to kill her if the police were still after them. But then suddenly, there was a dog sound from Mark's back seat, and it turns out that Mark wasn't driving his car but Monroe's, with Monroe's dog still inside. Hearing his beloved dog's sound from the radio, Monroe then immediately ordered them to fall back. When the tension reduces, Cam accidentally sees blood dripping from Zach's body. She then immediately told Danny that they needed to take Zach to the hospital for a bullet removal surgery, which Cam was unable to handle. But Danny insisted and forced Cam to contact her ex-boyfriend Colin, who was a doctor, along with 2 other surgeons, and put her on video chat to guide her through the surgery. Will then asked Danny to take the wheel while he helped Cam in the surgery.
Open him up, open the skin.
I'm going for the skin. Okay, I'm cutting. Cutting. The skin is open.
Cannot do this at 60 miles an hour.
At least just slow down.
It's as slow as I go!
Slow down, man. Just slow down.
The surgeons guided Cam to remove the bullet from Zach's spleen, but she can only do it in 60 seconds, as Zach's spleen might burst.
Calm down. Squeeze it now.
It's on the spleen. What do I do?
Artery attached to the...
He's got 60 seconds.
Taking it out. Who's got it?
Thankfully, the surgery was successful, but Zach had to lose his spleen. As the chase continues, Zach was starting to bleed out. Knowing that Will had a matching blood type, he then volunteered to donate his for Zach. Cam stared at him as if she never expected that Will is a good guy. The Will told her that he was forced to join the robbery because the insurance company didn't approve his request for his wife's experimental surgery cost. Right before Monroe was about to join the others to search for Danny, an FBI agent named Clark approached him, telling him that he is in charge of the bank robberies division and that he knows a lot about Danny. There he told Monroe that Danny wasn't an ordinary robber, but also a dangerous criminal who had been on the FBI's most wanted list for so long, and suggested Monroe switch cars once in a while in his search to confuse Danny. When he was about to switch cars, Monroe then received a call from Colin telling him about the surgery call he had, which was suddenly disconnected, and he assumed that Zach's surgery had failed. Monroe then heavy-heartedly declared Zach's passing and instructed the other officers to get to sniper position, as there was only Cam left as Danny's hostage. Clark was worried and contacted Cam right away, telling her to duck to avoid the incoming sniper shots.
Take the shot if you got it. What are you talking about, live?
Luckily, Cam managed to warn Danny about it and made him able to avoid the shots. Danny went mad and shot his gun carelessly while threatening Monroe to mess with him no more, or he would kill Cam and Zach.
Relax!
After hours in the chase, they finally arrived at their destination. Their Castro immediately painted the ambulance while Danny checked on the ambulance brought by Poppy's men. Thinking that Danny was cornered, Monroe then ordered his men to storm the location.
Let's go.
Hey, River.
Got me?
Castro, listen, this end, you go that way. All right?
What the fuck is crazy? Air 11, we got
I'm having an episode. They told me to go to the hospital, then I had too much.
But then, in response to the police action, Poppy's son named Roberto sent an ambulance loaded with explosives to the scene, killing a lot of the police officers there.
Jesus Christ.
We got medic!
What are you doing, Danny?
The criminals even retaliated by using a machine gun-mounted car to attack the police, resulting in Monroe's death. Mark witnesses Roberto's involvement and chased him. During a confrontation, Roberto accidentally shoots himself in the head, which is reported on the news and was witnessed by Poppy.
All units be advised.
Shortly after, they finally arrived at Poppy's place to deliver his pay. Before he went to Poppy's office, Will warned Cam to not exit the ambulance no matter what. As soon as Will left, Zach, who was awake then, told Cam to take his gun just in case. Danny then gives Poppy his pay and expresses his condolences on Roberto's passing. But then Poppy refused it, saying that it wasn't worth the life of his son and demanded more payback from them, so he ordered them to leave Cam and Zach there. Will and Danny went to an argument there. Will, as a veteran, couldn't sacrifice any innocence, while Danny was warning him not to mess around in Poppy's office. Will still insisted since he thought that they were fucked up already, and sacrificing Cam and Zach would use nothing to them.
What are you doing? Stop. It is not that simple. Just,
What's the next plan?
we gotta go.
Hey, we fucked up, and I'm not fucking up again.
That's it.
Poppy was fed up and ordered his men to kill the Sharp brothers there. But suddenly,
We said, Danny, go left together. Go left. Would you say that he's my pretend brother? He's my real brother.
they managed to escape the chaos, but when Will opened the back of the ambulance, Cam accidentally shot Will in fear. Seeing that, Danny was shocked and immediately rushes to the hospital without knowing that Cam was the one who shot his brother and thought that one of Poppy's men was the one who did it. When Cam was trying to stop his bleeding, Will suddenly gave her a wad of the heist money to her and told her to give it to his wife.
Let me do my job.
The cops were after them until when they had just arrived at the hospital, the cops immediately surrounded their ambulance. When Danny went to check on his brother, he suddenly saw a gun laying there, and he immediately assumed that it was Zach's and he was the one who had shot his brother. And as he was about to shoot Zach, Cam suddenly blocked him and confessed that she was the one who shot Will because she was in fear and spontaneously took the shot as soon as Will opened the door back then at Poppy's place. Danny went mad yet again. He was cornered, with the cops outside ready to end him there.
And I'm gonna shoot you in the head. We're gonna die together.
He then suddenly took Cam outside at gunpoint, knowing that he was gonna die anyway, so he decided to take Cam to die with him in front of everyone and the media. As he slowly opened the door and counted down, suddenly, Danny was shot in the back by his little brother. Will's wife approached the scene from afar, screaming her husband's name. Hearing that, Cam stands up, as her job wasn't done yet. She then asks Mark to help her take Will inside the hospital, but he refuses as he wouldn't help a criminal. But then, Cam told him that he was the one who saved Mark's partner's life. Mark's eyes finally opened and helped Will to get inside the hospital. And finally, her job is all done. She then approaches Will's wife and discreetly leaves the heist money inside the baby's car seat. Soon after, Cam went to visit Lindsay, the little girl she saved earlier that day, as she finally understands that to help people is not just a task to finish, but also a life to save and humanity that she must preserve. On the other side, when an officer records Zach's statements and asks who shot him, he pointed at Will and said that he saved his life.
He saved my life.
And the movie finally ended. What do you think of the movie? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon so you won't miss our future recaps. And if you have any movie you want us to recap, please do tell us in the comment section as well. And until next time.
Am I?